Step 1. Installing support beams. Begin with an empty under the sink cabinet and determine if you should install vertical or horizontal beams. The solution will depend on the pipe configuration. In our example, we'll install vertical beams. Measure the width inside the cabinet to determine where the appliance panel will fit. Then attach panel brackets to the appliance panel and measure the distance from one bracket to the next to get the appliance panel width. If the panel doesn't fit, you can cut the appliance panel down on each side to adjust and accommodate smaller cabinets. If the appliance panel does fit, you are now ready to determine the width and the location of the support beam panels. Measure and cut the height of the support beams to fit inside the cabinet, then test. Slide the panel brackets into the mount brackets and test the appliance panel with the support beams. To provide support and prevent hitting pipes, use 3-inch butterfly screws to attach the support beams to drywall or 1/4-inch wood bracketing. Using a 3/16-inch drill bit, drill 2 holes into each support beam just deep enough to mark the drywall. Then using a 5/8-inch paddle bit, find your mark and drill the hole through the sheetrock. Make sure to only go through the sheetrock and no further. This will allow you to put your finger in the hole and determine if it is safe to put a screw in that area or if there's an unexpected pipe in the way. Once you have drilled all 4 holes, now you are ready to add screws and support beams. The butterfly connects to the back and should be twisted far enough down that it can still collapse and go into the hole you drilled. Once the butterfly portion is inside the wall, pull the face of the screw back and keep turning the screw until you have a nice tight fit. The butterfly should give support for approximately 100 pounds of weight. Step 2. Removing and preparing the false panel. If your panels are painted, you must first take a blade and cut along the edge to separate your panel from the cabinet. Score multiple times if necessary to ensure a clean cut. Behind your false panel is an opening. How it is attached will vary. Most commonly, screws and nails are used for attachment. In this case, pieces of wood are attached to the panel and are nailed to the cabinet. Use any tool with a flat head in conjunction with a hammer to pry the wood and/or nails from the frame. Once the support for the panel is removed, you are now ready to separate the panel from the cabinet. If you still feel any tension, do not force or rip the panel off. This will only create patches in the paint. Instead, use your sharp edge to work those resistant areas until they pry free easily. The panel is now ready for inspection and preparation. Your goal is to have a flat surface to mount the knobs. In this case, there are blocks attached to the panel. Remove the blocks and then sand the board to a smooth and even finish. You successfully removed the false panel. Step 3. Installing the appliance panel. Begin by sliding the left mount bracket and right mount bracket into the appliance panel. The ideal width from the outside of the left mount bracket to the outside of the right mount bracket is 21 inches. Therefore, each bracket should be located 10.5 inches from the center of the sink. Find and mark your center. Then place a vertical mark 10.5 inches on the right and left side of the cabinet. Place the unit where the appliance panel sits at the base of the sink. The appliance panel should be able to slide back and touch the center pipe. This ensures the false front can close when using appliances with long handles. With the appliance panel in position, line up the outside bracket with your vertical marks. Mark the holes of the right bracket with a pencil. Pre-drill the holes. Measure the distance from the top of the inside cabinet to the first top hole. In our case, it is 9 inches. Then measure that same distance on the left. Mark a horizontal line for the top hole. Lift the left bracket and place the top hole over the mark you made, with the outside of the bracket against its vertical mark. Then mark all 3 holes. Pre-drill each hole. Screw each bracket to its designated location. Use a washer and wing screw to tighten the appliance panel to the correct location on the brackets. Again, it's more likely to slide back near the center pipe to allow clearance for all handles. Make sure you measure the distance on the right and left side to ensure the panel is straight. Add the tubes. Twisting the cap while pushing it against the tube will give you a stronger hold. You have now successfully mounted the appliance panel. Step 4. Modifying the false front opening. The goal is to make it easier to access appliances while preventing scratches to the hand as it goes in and out of the opening. Begin by measuring the opening height. If it is 5 or more inches, sand the bottom inside edge and the top outside edge. Rounding edges creates a user-friendly and safe environment. If the false panel opening is between 4 to 5 inches in height, use a jigsaw to cut into the center stile to create the feeling of a larger opening. First, place the vertical mark 1.5 inches from each bottom corner. Place the hinge in position and make sure you have a large enough area to mount it. Create a horizontal line 1/4 inch from the front. This will serve as your cutting guide. Use painter tape. Tape off the stile. This protects the cabinet surface as you run the jigsaw against it. Adjust your jigsaw to a 45-degree angle. Begin cutting the stile starting somewhere in the middle. Cut along your line. Make sure you always push the blade away from you when you need to readjust. This ensures the stile remains smooth and all extra cuts are located on the pieces that will be disposed. Since you started in the middle, you will now need to turn the jigsaw in the opposite direction and cut along your guideline until you reach your vertical mark. Using a straight edge, cut off the excess pieces behind your vertical mark. Do this for both sides. If you need to smooth out your angle cut, run the jigsaw along your guideline one more time in each direction. Remove the tape. Then sand the inside angle to create a rounded surface. Next, sand the outside edge to eliminate potential snag or scrape areas. Sand until you've created a round surface. You now have a user-friendly opening. Step 5. Adding the hinges, knobs, and Velcro. We begin with the hinges. Place the hinge in its representative corner and mark the bottom and top screw hole. Do this for both sides. Then pre-drill each hole to prevent the 3/4 inch wood from splitting. Use the screws to mount the hinges. We will add the magnetic clasp next. Find the mark in the center of your opening. Place the magnet in place to mark your holes. Pre-drill both holes. Then screw in the magnet. Now let's add the panel. Temporarily place the false front back to its original position and mark the hinge holes from the inside of the cabinet. Remove the false front and open both hinges. Pre-drill each hole you marked. Secure the panel to the hinges by adding the remaining screws. When done, close the panel to test the fit. You may need to make minor adjustments to one or both hinges to perfect the ease of the close. You can now add the clasp for the magnet. Using your pencil to cover the bumps with lead, close and punch the panel to mark the location of the clasp. Darken your assisting marks and place the clasp in position. Mark the hole for the screw, pre-drill, and screw in the clasp. You are now ready to design the knob layout. In general, an opening of 7 or more inches can utilize the vertical layout for the maximum use of space and comfort. An opening around 5 inches works best with a diagonal layout. Generally, your knobs will be spaced 6.5 inches in length. The minimum opening height of 4 inches usually has 2 configuration options. The first is a steep diagonal layout, which places the knobs no closer than 5.25 inches. This design has the Velcro positioned on the side rather than the center of the knobs. While you can usually fit more appliances, you will be required to wrap a little more given how close the knobs sit. The other design option is a horizontal layout. While this configuration stores fewer appliances, it can offer more comfort and less wraps than the previous solution. In our example, with height of 4 inches and with a width of 24 inches, we can fit 2 pairs comfortably. When laying out your knobs, remember to leave room for the hinges. Also, consider the overlap of the outside panel for the opening size. Usually there is at least a 1/4 inch overlap. In addition to the overlap space, at a minimum, allow for an additional 5/8 of an inch for knob and wire clearance. Position your knobs appropriately and secure each one by pre-drilling your holes, and then add the screws. The final step is to add the male Velcro between your knob pairs. Begin by measuring and cutting the correct size of Velcro to fit underneath both knobs. Remove the 2 screws facing inside of the panel. Loosen the 3rd screw and rotate the knob away from its original position. Repeat this process for the opposite knob. Remove the backing to the Velcro. Place the sticky side of the Velcro just below the 2 screw holes from one side to the other. Return both knobs to their position and tighten all screws. When you are ready to insert your appliances, you can then stick a piece of female Velcro on the plug to create a secure fit after wrapping the cords. You now have completed your installation. We recommend adding a finish to all raw exposed wood, either a stain or paint to prevent the wood from expanding or warping.